everyone, welcome to Online AMP2. I wanted to give you a quick overview of the course shell in Canvas so that you know how to find everything you need this semester. So let's go log into Canvas, and you'll see I have it organized in modules. Basically it's going to open up week by week. First I want to make a point to show that if you're in the home view, you will have this to-do list off to the side that will usually derail you because it's going to have you click on something that's worth points and you won't know what needed to be done before you went to do that assignment. So I always recommend to students that you work from the modules view, and that way you're not distracted by that to-do list and you'll do things in the order that they're required. So let's start with the syllabus general info module. I'm assuming that you've read the welcome message and the syllabus. We'll touch on a lot of things in this little video, but there are a lot of other details in the syllabus that we won't talk about, so make sure you read that in detail before you go to take your syllabus quiz. Hopefully you have already pulled up and printed the course schedule. This is also the last page of the syllabus. So I've got that pulled up here so we can go through it together. This really is the map of the everything we're going to do all semester. So this is really important that you have this handy, that you can pay attention to deadlines and kind of see the big picture of what you need to do each week. So we're going to have them organized week by week, and you'll see how we've got the semester broken up. We generally go in order in this class. You're going to see the very last lecture. There is no distinct chapter over genetics, but there is going to be a recorded lecture. So when I say lecture, I've got PowerPoint videos, narrated videos in YouTube that go with each chapter. So you can see some chapters we've got broken up by topic. And if it's listed here as a B, sections, that means there's a separate lecture that goes with each of those sections to correlate with the textbook chapter. And so these are essentially narrated lectures that correlate with what we do in the in-person class. So sometimes they're really short. This first one's fairly short, trying to get you plenty of time to get started up this first week and do some housekeeping things like do your syllabus quiz and download the Lockdown browser program, things like that. But generally, you can expect each of these lectures to be an hour, hour and a half to correlate with what we would do in class. So give yourself plenty of time to complete everything that's assigned each week and you won't fall behind. So you can see basically what topic and portion of the chapter is listed this week is what's going to be tested on the weekly quiz. So these do require the Lockdown browser and a webcam. You'll see down here a footnote that describes those. Those are all closed book tests. They're timed tests, and so you'll want to make sure and give yourself plenty of time and understand the material before you go in and take those quizzes. So you'll see virtually our weeks run through Tuesdays of each week, and so generally speaking everything is due at the end of that week. So students are just responsible for setting up a time scale that works for them for the week. So you have access to everything for the whole week, and so if, for example, you get your first quiz done on June 1st, I will go in the day after, so you can expect that I will go in and grade. Typically these are a lot of multiple choice or matching type questions, but there's always at least one open-ended essay question, and that will get graded manually the day after it's due. So as mentioned in multiple times in the syllabus, there are no extended deadlines. So I'm very strict about deadlines because I will go in and grade that and then open it up so everybody can see their answers. So I highly recommend you always work toward the front end of the week so that you don't run out of time. You're going to see these assignments are very similar to probably the ones you did in AMP1. What I've got here is either a set of labs. So in some chapters there's not really a step-by-step lab to do. It's more just a series of review questions, so you kind of see that those are laid out that way. And then you have the dynamic study modules, and these are really tailored to your understanding of the material. And so they're set to be completed in about 15 or 20 minutes, but if you go in blind, meaning you haven't studied the material yet and you're using this as a study tool, it will basically keep you hostage until you do show correct answers on all the topics that have been assigned. So make sure you do these assignments after you have studied the material, and it won't take nearly as long. So you basically have 3 assignments that go with each lecture. So you can see here, or I should say each topic. So for example, special senses, you have 2 dynamic study modules and a lab, and then for chapter 14 you've got 2 dynamic study modules and a lab. So you can see everything comes due at the end of the week, and so you don't want to wait till the last minute, because each of these takes a little bit of time. So the posting instructions. So the first week I've kept it kind of simple and just had everybody introduce themselves to the class. But moving forward, we have your typical post and reply, where you're going to interact with your classmates on the discussion post or forum. And so you'll see this is why it's really important that you have this page guiding you on your due dates, because Canvas cannot post 2 separate due dates for a single assignment. And so because you're interacting with each other's posts, this is tied to a single grade in the system. And so you will never get any kind of announcement on Canvas for this first due date, but the points do rely on you having posted on time. So make sure that you've set an alarm or do whatever it is that you do to keep track of things that are assigned, and make sure that you post your initial information on the first date, so that you have something to interact with your classmates. I have found that if I make both of these due dates on the same day, people that procrastinate means there's nothing out there for anybody to reply to. And so I've tried to divide that up a little bit to kind of force your hand to do some work ahead of time to give your peers something to comment on. And I do hope that people will spread out their comments, meaning don't just post on the same person who posted early in the week. Spread it out. You should be posting. Everyone should have someone posting a reply to one of their peers, so that we're not all commenting on the same post. And again, whatever is assigned in that week would be the thing that is tested on that quiz. And so we will only meet in person on the actual day of the final exam, and it is comprehensive, meaning everything through the whole semester is fair game. So make sure that you're learning the material as you're doing these quizzes along the way. That's the whole point of those quizzes, is to give you some incentive to really learn what you're supposed to from each chapter. And there are study guides to help guide you on what kind of information you're supposed to be taking from each of those chapters. So you will have a lab practical exam, and we'll open up this folder probably about the 4th of July week, because that's really when we start learning some of the gross anatomy, which is basically what this is. This is going to be a virtual exam using pictures of dissected animals, that you will then just be identifying the gross anatomy level organs, where you will identify the liver, the stomach, the spleen, all of the gross anatomy organs. So this is a virtual exam. It will be open on Canvas for that full final week of the semester, and then we will take our final exam in person. And so we've got the final exam scheduled on Thursday, the 31st of July. And I've got 2 times. I assume a lot of people work, and so we'll do it late in the day. But if you would like to choose a time earlier than that, you just need to email me and request it. And if I can accommodate it, I will. If someone requests an earlier time, I will open it up to the rest of the group as well. But there are no times beyond Thursday at 5:30. If we do an alternate time, it would have to be earlier than this. Even on Wednesday, the 30th, would be an option. So if you request something early, make sure you tell me exactly what time you're hoping for, and we can try to work that out. let's see. Okay, so that's basically how it's all laid out. Let's go back to our shell in Canvas so I can show you where to find these links. So of course there's some additional stuff in this first initial folder, the syllabus general info module. So make sure that you read this note on the inclusive access. This is where you have instant access to the digital materials, and because this is a trailer course, depending on when you took A&P1 and how you bought your course materials, they may or may not still be um, uh, valid or active. And so before you go in and do anything with your course materials link here, make sure you read the inclusive access note here. This link will disappear after the first 11 days when you have the option to opt out. And then you'll only see this one. And this is basically how you get to your ebook. You can get to your assignments through this link as well, but primarily that's how you'll get to your ebook. When you go to take your syllabus quiz, so make sure you read the syllabus first. But this is really the option or the opportunity for you to make sure that software is updated. They do, the college, the IT department does initialize that software each semester, and so it will not work from an old link. You have to download it fresh each semester, and so the easiest way to do that is to do it from the syllabus quiz itself. You would just basically click through there until you get to the link where it says download the software, and then you can go from there. You only should have to do that with one class each semester, so if you've already done that in another class this semester, this should take you straight to it. But please read the guidelines before you go and take your syllabus quiz. I do have some pretty strict guidelines. Academic integrity is of great import in this class, and so even if you've done or used Lockdown Browser before in another class, you may have had an instructor that wasn't very strict about it, so please make sure you go and read the guidelines. If you want anything that is proctored using this software to count in this class, you need to follow those instructions, so please do so. You do have multiple options, repeated attempts on this quiz, so you will need to do that until you get a full credit, which shows that you read the instructions and followed them closely, and understand that that is what is expected on any Lockdown Browser quiz. And you won't have access to even the first week quiz until you've done that and done that successfully. So please pay attention to that. Let's get it done the first time so we don't have to do it multiple times. And so got some other just general information here. Let me collapse that. And so again, you'll see each week module will pop up as we go. So for example, usually I'll open it up on the last day of the previous one. So you'll see on 6.3, you'll see the module for the next week open up, and it'll just pop up here below. And so if you go in week by week, you will see to start with a study guide, and this covers every chapter for the whole semester. So if you want to just pull it up once, print it out, you'll have all that access, but you can also find everything from these study guides in individual chapter folders. So as we go through each entry on your course schedule has a separate folder, and that's going to contain all the information you need from that section of the semester. And so key concepts are basically just the bullet list from that original study guide. So if you prefer to work from hard copy, that's where you can pull that up and print that out. You'll also find the links to those narrated PowerPoints, as well as notes to print or homework. So let's just go into one of these folders so you can see what we're talking about. So for each one, again, here's the bullet list from the study guide, but you will also find additional links here within the folders. So for example, this is not in the overall study guide, but if you like to draw and label, and that's a really good thing to do when you have anything that is visual, visual information. So you have a diagram here you can print out. You also have, anytime you have information that you're asking the same question over and over and over. So for example, in the 12 pairs of cranial nerves, you're going to have like 4 things that you're learning about each cranial nerve, and so putting that in table form is always useful. So if you like to fill out your own, I give you the blank, or I give you the one that's got all the information. Of course, he who does the work does the learning, so I always recommend that you write it out yourself, but then you have one that you can refer to if you like. So then go to the textbook and read that portion of the textbook. Then you can go review the PowerPoint lecture. Because you can't really print YouTube videos, I give you the PowerPoint slides that you can print out as well. Now keep in mind, a lot of the lecture slides in this semester are going to have pictures from your book. So I would always recommend you take a look at those slides before you push print, and I would never print them as full page slides because they're going to use up a lot of paper. So maybe put them in the 3 or 6 slides per page mode before you print them. And then here are those homework assignments that go with this part of the chapter. So you can either access your homework from within the folder, or if we go back to the modules view, you will also find each of those links are out here separated, and I do it this way as well because that's the only way to get the check mark function. So no matter how you access your homework assignments, once you complete them, you should have a little check mark that shows that it's complete. So that's another way you can kind of double check that you're doing all your work as you go. And then once you've completed those things and you are ready to take your quiz, of course this first one, here's my little reminder note that you won't actually have access to this link if you have not done your syllabus quiz or not been awarded 10 out of 10 points. Then you won't actually see this link at all until you've done that. And so moving forward, once everybody has gotten their syllabus quiz complete, then you should always see these quiz links. And then when you go in and finish that, depending on what week it is, of course, or what point in time it is, you should see the next module down below, and you can get started on that one. So otherwise, when it comes to discussion boards, make sure that when you go in, so for example, here's your discussion link. You can either get to it from within the folder or you can go straight to the discussion board. But make sure that when you come into any discussion board that you come over here and subscribe to the forum, and that way you will always get an email when someone posts something new. I will also always keep your grades updated, usually week by week after I get that quiz graded. So this is usually the main thing I'm grading besides the discussion posts. And again, I always go in the morning right after it's due and grade it. That's how my schedule is set up. I go in the very next morning and grade and post those so that you can go in and see what you missed. And once that's been opened up, nobody else has access, and that's why I don't do any late homeworks or deadlines will not be extended unless we have some sort of major campus failure where people can't access the material. Then of course I would adjust it, but otherwise we do not extend deadlines. The other thing I kind of skipped over was contacting the instructors. So keep in mind I'm not on campus in the summer, so I do have a little note here that reminds you when you go to contact me, please do not use, in fact I shut down the link right here. Usually there's one that says messaging. I have that turned off because that is not how you should contact me in this class. You also should never use this inbox. This is just what we call an internal messaging function. This, you have to be in Canvas to see it. And so always email me directly. So if you go back to your portal, you will have an icon that says campus email. This is how you should always contact me. This is how we can be most efficient when we communicate. If you send something through the messaging system, it will only come to me late in the evening. I have them all forwarded one at a time, once a day. And so if you want me to be an efficient communicator, you need to use email. And so that way we can not be playing email tag essentially. So but again, I'm not on campus in the summer, so make sure that if you have any questions, reach out by email and I will get back to you as soon as possible. So I look forward to the semester, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.